Spider-Man Miles Morales is a game that really makes you feel like you're Spider-Man. I've played so many different open world games where it takes 15,000 years to get from one side of the map to the other without fast travelling. However, Spider-Man is different because it gives you an extreme amount of options to navigate around New York City. Let's say you're playing a game like PUBG and it's 6 PM and you want to make your way across the map. You could probably expect to be there about 7 PM, right? The next day, if you have a car. But in Spider-Man, if you want to get across the map, you have so many different options, such as being able to swing across the map, point launch, wall run, fast travel, or even walk down the street if you're a lunatic. But the amount of options you get, it may seem overwhelming, but it really allows you to adapt to any situation you may find yourself in while exploring the giant map. However, movement, while being a big part of the game, isn't necessarily the only focal point of the developers. Another massive part of the game is combat, and oh my god, the combat, bro. The combat in this game can generally be described as HSTEABAF. Holy shit, these enemies are blind as fuck. The reason that I'm saying this is because you can walk into an enemy base, right, with about 15 or 20 guys, and you can just sit at the top of the base and web all the enemies up one by one. So you go from this enemy compound, right, with about 20 guys to about 5 guys in the space of 2 minutes, and not a single one of the soldiers cares. They just walk past and you can see the dead bodies dangling down and no one cares. No one cares, bro. The way that I've described combat so far may sound like I hate it, but I've actually found it to be just as satisfying as swinging down the streets of New York, because again, you have so many options at your disposal, such as stealthing around the enemies, rushing in line with all your venom powers, or blowing up people with remote mines. And I feel like this is used as a strength in action games such as Spider-Man. Now let's take the game Doom Eternal for example. The way the developers made that game fun and enticing was by giving the players a multitude of weapons and movement abilities. However, you couldn't just pick one weapon and blast through the entire game using just that single weapon, because every single weapon had strengths and weaknesses, and one weapon would beat the other weapon in a certain category, but then that same weapon would be weaker against other weapons in that same category. Both Doom and Spider-Man execute this concept brilliantly by making the player think before they actually have to go into battle, because it's not easiest to just run in and take everybody out, as there are sometimes reasons to go into stealth. There may be more hiding spots than usual, or maybe it is easy to just go in and take everybody out because you can hit them off rooftops and just take them out in one hit. And each playstyle has different benefits and weaknesses over each other, just like the weapons in Doom. One difference that I don't think people really talk about too much from the first game to the second game is the story. I feel like the characters are just completely contained within the game. They aren't really expanded outside of the game. In the first Spider-Man you have Doc Ock, who's been in movies and comics. However, the main villain in this game, I won't spoil it, is only in the game and is not really outside of the game, so you don't really get as much time to get to know them. This is not necessarily a fault of the game, it's just something that I point out. So if you're going into this game expecting an insane, compelling story, I wouldn't keep your hopes up, because the story is very short. I feel like this is the most common issue brought up with the game. It's a very short game, and you could get through it within about 8 hours, which is not insane length for a AAA game these days. And for me, I was able to 100% it within about 6-7 hours. So it may be different for your run, but I didn't play the first Spider-Man game, so I was less experienced. This review may come off as negative, but I absolutely enjoyed my time with Miles Morales. It is a standing achievement for PlayStation. It is finally a good launch title, that alongside Demon's Souls, which will absolutely stand the test of time for years to come, and 20 years down the line will still be amazing games to play. And this means that the PlayStation 6 will have an extremely hard time competing to have a better launch lineup against the PlayStation 5. But what kind of competition did the PlayStation 5 have? Well, the PlayStation 4's launch titles were... Huh? And what? What about the PlayStation 3's launch titles? Bro, PlayStation 6 better not fuck this up.